All right, guys, welcome to Aussies Taking Over the NBA podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Bullock, joined as well by
Benjamin Black.
two locals of Sydney's outer suburbs, looking to document the historic rise of Benjamin Simmons, as well as some other Aussie favourites like Lankin Joe Ingles, Dellavedova, Mills, Thon Maker, and the list goes on, and we can't even forget Dante Exum in that. But really what we're trying to do is give you guys a bit of understanding of the games and a bit of a recap of what they've been up to and how they're going. And we're going to start by taking over the playoff series, followed by taking over the draft, and then regular season coverage as of 2018-2019 season. So welcome. We're going to make this a regular event, and hopefully you guys can join us on the voyage.
So, about 6 months ago, we decided to make this podcast, which would have been a good time to sort of plan.
Would have been a good time to start, I think.
Yeah, time to start it and plan it because, or actually maybe not, because the Philly weren't playing that really well.
No, but it would have been good to cover the rise of Ben Simmons.
Yeah, and go through
glory.
that great period that he went through where they were just winning games nonstop.
Yeah.
15-0, 16-0?
It was 16-0 first game into the run of this final series. And so now we come to the time where we're going to review all the Aussies in the NBA. This is the NBA podcast about Aussies.
Yeah.
And moving forward, we're going to be doing more on each Aussie's player profiles, things like that. But we thought we'd start off with the Boston-Milwaukee series.
Yep.
Obviously, 3 Aussies in action. One getting more minutes than the rest.
Yeah,
Not
Aaron
that
Baines.
much more. But, yeah. So, game 1, Boston takes that out quite easily in extra time. But Milwaukee were able to push them to it.
Yeah.
Only one Aussie really took part in this game. That was Aaron Baines. I think, did Thon get some rubbish minutes at the end?
Nah, he didn't get any garbage time at all. And Delhi, I was watching Delhi, he had a towel around his calf for pretty much the entire game. So I'd say in that first game he was still injured or coming off an injury. And I'd say he got a couple of minutes in the second game, but I think they're
he needs
minutes.
He needs postseason to really recover. He was not strong in the last game against Philly as well.
I think he's rushed his way back.
Yeah.
Which is understandable because they've got Bledsoe as their point guard, and I'm not sure Bledsoe's not a great point guard. But then again, Delhi's they're probably about on par with each other. They're not superstar point guards.
No.
They're decent enough point guards. And I think Delhi off the bench gives you some grit.
It does. He's a full court press specialist. Just annoying like a fly.
And he, I'm not sure he really runs their sets either. I really don't know if they run sets at all. Like
I don't think. I think it's just pass to Giannis and hope for the best.
Everyone kind of move around, and then wherever Giannis ends up, just toss him the ball and hope for the best.
It's under 10 style basketball.
Especially, Milwaukee. But the Boston team is
surprising with two of their biggest stars out with a young team.
And Brad Stevens is a great coach. I mean, very good technical coach. Works really well with the talent that he has. And I mean, when you run a team in a sense that you're a really good coach running certain systems, you tend to add players that can come in and out of the team and fit.
Yeah.
So it's not like Milwaukee where they haven't really designed their offense around anything. Like it's kind of built around Giannis, but at the same time, it's not really built around Giannis. There's a bunch of other players. Milton, who's a good ISO scorer. Malcolm Brogdon, I think, is their reserve point guard. Is there one of their reserve guards?
Tony Snell's had a fairly good season outside.
Snell's a catch and shoot player. Yeah. Not great when driving to the rim.
No,
but
it's essentially Giannis who plays inside 6 feet. No one else really drives in there.
And I don't know if I'm forgetting anyone else, but I think without that system, they're really not going to play well against a team like Boston, who's well coached.
Well, it doesn't set up well for the Aussies in the team either. I think they're not played to their individual strengths. Like I said, it's just a team set up around one guy, and I think every team has showed that you need two to really get anywhere. And there is no
a combination or
something.
If you're a well coached team, you've got two players who can run an offense, whether they stagger them to come off the bench or whether you play them together to create offensive basketball, I guess. But, Baines was guarding Giannis a little bit, and other than Horford, I think he can defend Giannis because he's got
his bulk. Yeah, he's a big dude.
Yeah, he's a big guy. He's not got great feet.
No.
He's not got good scoring around the rim. But I think he's a symptom of the way Brad Stevens can coach. So similar to JaVale McGee, where if you focus this player's intensity the right way, you limit their mistakes or limit the way they're going to get abused on the court.
Yeah.
And he only played 15 minutes, and he did kind of get yanked off the court pretty early.
Yeah, they figured out that he wasn't an effective enough tool to guard Giannis. Giannis was kind of having his way in the early stages, and they moved to a more mobile, bit more basketball IQ-centric player.
It helps the Boston offense. Baines runs a lot of their sets at the elbow too, so a lot of their movement, he comes to the elbow and handles the ball. Horford's got a similar style where he can play down low as well as come to the elbow and run action. But the other problem for them is that in playoffs basketball, the game kind of gets reduced to a mess of one team trying to limit what the other team's doing, where you have to try and get out of what they're trying to limit, and at the same time try and run what you are trying to run to exploit it.
But Milwaukee's not doing that at all. They're really not. They're
on defense, they are a little bit, but
not effectively, and hence why they're 3-0 down.
Yeah, no, they're 2-0
down. Sorry. It's a preemptive premonition of
Game
3.
I could see that series being a sweep. But I think Giannis has got one game in him where he just goes nuts, and they can't guard him. They just give him the ball, and he just goes absolutely nuts.
We played 46 minutes in the first game, which is heavy. That really is that all or nothing kind of play, and it still wasn't enough to get over the line. And they reduced his minutes game 2, and they lost by a decent margin.
Yeah, pretty handily. They were beaten in game 2.
And Delhi got some minutes in that game, but he did not look 100% at all.
No, he got 5 minutes. He had an assist, and then he had a turnover, which was pretty bad. And after that turnover, he had an offensive foul, which is very Dellavedova, really.
Yeah, he's I would call him a pest.
Yeah, he's a pesky player. He's a pesky player. And I think they'll need him to play significant minutes in this series. Milwaukee will need him if they're going to win.
Yeah.
But obviously, they've got Bledsoe and Brogdon off the bench. And apart from that, they're going to really struggle to score.
There isn't a lot of scoring outside Middleton or Antetokounmpo.
No, there really is not. And Henson's not there for his scoring. He's mainly there for his defense. And Jabari Parker played 10 minutes in the second game. He looks like he's still struggling through his injury. He had an injury at the back end of that season. He's only just come back, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's they're not looking like they're a fit team. They're looking like a hard 82-game team that is relying heavily on one player. And we'll probably see the early exit of 2 Australians out of the playoff series for that.
Well, we're definitely going to lose Australians in that first round.
Yeah.
Hopefully in some of the other games we're not going to lose too many Australians. But, I mean, Baines played well in that second game. He had 24 minutes, 3 from 6 from the field. He had 6 points, 2 blocks. I think he did block Giannis on one of those plays.
Okay.
And then that led to a score down the other end. But, I mean, he's defended him adequately, like, with his body. I mean, if Giannis was further along with his shooting, he'd definitely be a lot more of a threat.
His arms are so long. He just shoot over the top of everyone.
And he takes a few steps to get going. And, I mean, if he's running into the paint trying to score, it's a lot different from running action for him off the ball to get him open to either shoot or drive.
Yeah.
And I mean, Baines is not too bad moving his feet. He had a few games where he had a few plays where he moved his feet well and kept him away from the basket. I'm pretty sure he blocked him once. So I mean, he had 24 minutes. There was some garbage time at the end of that game, though, wasn't there?
Yeah.
That game, yeah.
It was dead by about 5 minutes to go, fourth quarter.
Terry Rozier and Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown looks very good.
Man, they were shooting it from everywhere, though.
Yeah, and he was getting to the basket at will as well. He was just getting around everybody and scoring. And I think Thon Maker came off the bench right at the end
for one lowly rebound.
And,
I don't think that I don't think they've played him well this year. I mean, he's gotten decent minutes throughout the year, but he's got to put on 5-10 kilos if he's going to play at center.
Yep.
Especially with, we see this time and time and again, especially it's been more prevalent in this NBA playoff series than ever. It's the team that hits the most 3 points wins.
Yeah.
The only one that bucked the trend in the first game was Houston. But every other team, and he's long levered, but he's got to put on weight. He's got to create those screens, and people are fighting through him way too easily, and that's why he's been taken out. He's not physical enough for a playoff series.
Well, he's a 7-footer, and he's not a solid 7 foot. He's a very long, rangy 7 foot. He's almost a little bit like Durant. He's got the same sort of build as Durant, where unless he works on his speed and his foot speed and can actually, move off the dribble and create shots, I think he'll kind of get relegated to being a stretch four where he'll stand in the corner and knock down threes. And I mean, a new coach coming in will probably be able to utilize that. But I mean, it's his second year and he's not really ready. Physically, and there's time on his side.
Yeah, he's only young. And I think his brother's also potentially declaring for the draft this year as
really?
well. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Did not know that. I'll have to have a look into that.
Yeah.
So
game 2 is done. So next series.
So you want to go on to the next series?
Yeah, let's get on to the next series.
Go on to Spurs and Golden State?
Yeah, let's get on to Patty Mills, our longest serving NBA veteran.
Yes, he
Everyone
is.
loves Patty.
And tough series for the Spurs.
Yeah, Dad's Army.
Yeah, they're struggling a bit without Kawhi all season, and yeah, they brought Ginobili back pretty much out of retirement,
and he hasn't really. I mean, when you've got Tony Parker, Pau Gasol, and Ginobili, who could all retire tomorrow, and the league would be none the wiser. It's just you got Dad's Army team, and it's a struggle to see them. Yeah, well, they've still managed to get it this far.
Yeah,
they have the worst record of any playoff team on the road.
Yeah,
and losing your third game at home.
Yeah, today as we're recording this.
Yeah,
I've just finished that game.
The series is potentially driven away from you. But first game, he was just guarded too well.
Yeah, And so Golden State went with that length instead of starting point guard Quinn Cook, who was on a 2-way deal and he signed a contract. They started with Iguodala, which I think was the right way to go about it. I mean, it's an unusual player to start at point guard, but it allowed JaVale to guard LaMarcus Aldridge and for everyone else to switch. So it took one option away from Spurs, which is when they run their action and it breaks down, they throw it into LaMarcus Aldridge and he can back down and take a shot. And it almost forced them into throwing it into him in a panic. They switching when LaMarcus had the ball early in the shot clock. Golden State was switching everything, which meant there were always long people on shooters. So Durant obviously can close out. He's 7 foot. Iguodala 6'10" or 6'9", and he can close out. And then you got Klay Thompson, which is if he switches onto Patty Mills, Patty Mills is not going to put up shots over Klay Thompson.
They're a very deep shot clock team, Sacramento.
Oh,
not Spurs, San Antonio. Yeah, Friday afternoon Spurs. Recording this.
They were just kind of, I think they were just put off by that, and it shook them a little bit. I mean, throwing the ball into LaMarcus is not an all-night game. I mean, he gets tired.
He's a 25 to 30 minute player, and if you're not getting positive minutes out of him, then your night's not going to be set up.
And then on the other end, if he's having to defend pick and roll and having to defend, come out of the paint the entire time to defend, that just compounds.
They're a slow team as well. Yeah, and if you're playing fast slow. Transition, you pretty much pick them off.
And I mean, Patty shot 2 or 5. He hit 1 3. He tried to get them going, but ultimately he's not just going to put shots up.
No,
you know what I mean. He's not going to run pick and roll off the dribble and take shots and try and score. I mean, he's not that kind of point guard. I mean, he can run sets and he can
shoot as well.
He can shoot, but without Kawhi there, who's mainly their primary ball handler, he loses some of his ability to shoot by being wide open in the corner or coming off a screen. I mean, they started with Murray and Kyle Anderson, who are both quite young. I think Murray's a rookie as well. So, I mean, that first game was a pretty handy loss. On the defensive end, all they needed to do was really switch Durant or Klay onto Mills, and they were doing that at will, which I thought was an aspect of Popovich's coaching that you don't see very often. He's a very meticulous coach. He's very regimented. But
he has that other things on his mind, unfortunately.
Yeah, with the passing of his wife. Yeah, I heard about that
not
today.
The greatest thing to happen mid-series.
That's rough. So rest in peace was Aaron Popovich. But yeah, so they were switching Mills onto Klay and Durant, and they was just shooting over the top of him because he's only a small guard.
Yeah.
And I don't think they were really prepared for that.
No.
And then having Powell come off the bench, Powell's kind of slow and old. And I mean, he fights hard.
Look, their fight is not under question. Their speed and age is.
Yeah. And when you got Manu coming off the bench.
All these old guys deserve to go to a team that's tanking. Look at Nowitzki. It's a tanking team. Let them have their golden years in a team where they get some minutes. But when you get to playoffs and you're playing Power for 22 and Ginobili for 20 and even Tony Parker's, playing a few minutes now.
They're not supplementary minutes either. They're not minutes where you bring this guy in to supplement your offense.
Yeah.
You're bringing him in because things are breaking down. Yeah. And I mean, if you look at the way Tony Parker plays, as an older player, he's very good at getting into the basket. He's very good at coming off a down screen and taking a shot. But with the length, Golden State's length is just
they're just far too tall.
And their ability to switch, the amount of times they'd someone would drive, they'd pass the ball out and they'd, switch it across to the other side of the court and somebody would be running straight out right in their face. I mean, it's enough to put any kind of team off. And that first game was a pretty handy loss. And then the second game.
Game 2, a little bit more of a closer affair. I mean, Clay's shooting 75%.
Yeah.
You can't discount that.
There's not much you can do when
There's not much when he's shooting like that. So you take Clay down to 40%, you got to close the game, the amount of shots he takes. But Patty scored 21 second games.
Yep.
And I
think he was a lot better.
Well, it's not that. He had the freedom to shoot. He played shooting guard. He didn't play at the point. They stuck to DeJounte Murray at the point. So, I mean, it just shows you that he's that.
Yeah, I think in the right circumstances, Mills could probably run your offense. But there's other parts of that offense that he's not good at running that type of offense where he's got a post player he's got to throw the ball into and, he's got to pound the ball up the floor and then run action. And that action involves no shooters, basically. That involves other people who cut and drive. So obviously you're going to struggle if you're a shooter and you want to run pick and roll. You want someone to roll, and then if you're rolling into Golden State's defense, I mean, you're always going to struggle. It's going to be tough.
It's not going to happen. Where he's is in his speed, his ability to cut through the baseline, and that's really where it was in the second game when they played him at shooting guard. So that's I
thought he played a lot better.
He played heaps better.
I mean, he's one of those guys that
fight. He's not a consistent player. He'll play 70% of his games well, and then he'll get switched on to a much taller player, or he'll just have one of those off shooting nights.
Yep. And he's not a volume shooter either. He doesn't take lots of shots.
No, but this game he did. He took a lot of shots this game.
And the shots he took weren't too bad.
43% from the field and 33% from the 3-point line. That's not too bad.
It's not too bad. But at 2-0, going back to San Antonio.
Final game going down
today.
110-97 at home. Yeah, I'd say the series is probably over from that perspective.
Are you predicting a sweep?
I am predicting a sweep.
Yeah, I predicted a sweep.
Yeah, that's start. But everyone probably predicted that to start. It was the right team for Golden State to play in the first round with no Curry.
Yeah, without Curry, a team that doesn't fight for every possession, doesn't scrap. They play disciplined, regimented, structured basketball. Yeah. So in a sense, it was the perfect opponent for Golden State to play, because they weren't going to get too physical. Spurs aren't a team that just gets really physical and gets up in your face. They play the game the right way, which is why I like the Spurs. I like Patty Mills. And I mean, if that whole Kawhi thing, that whole season without Kawhi and all of that stuff happening, it's enough to sort of derail a team like that.
Look, they've done well to get here. It was a close conference in the West.
Yeah, it was crazy. Coming down to the last day and the last game on the last day. I mean, they could have, all of those teams could have, it was just roll the dice and they could have finished anywhere basically in the last 3 games. Yeah. So, I think it's going to be a sweep, to be honest.
4-0, but we'll keep you up to date with it.
Dusted. Done and dusted?
Done and dusted. One more to go. They may pull something out, but no team's ever come back from 3-0
never,
down.
ever.
So they've gone down, taken it to 7, but never won. All right, now we move on to Extreme Lankman in Joe Ingles and Dante Exum, who's finally gotten himself fit and back into the swing of things.
I think that first game, Utah didn't play that well. I mean, they're a really well coached team as well, Utah.
Yeah.
And Quinn Snyder, when he had Hayward last year, they'd run really long shot clock offense. So really slow, really grindy, not that much movement, but enough to kind of move the ball around. And they had good ISO scorers, Joe Johnson and Hayward. And this season, they've allowed Ingles to hold the ball, like to run the
He's been running a lot of the plays as well.
obviously with Rudy Gobert, he's been running a lot of 2-5 pick and roll with Rudy Gobert, which against OKC, it's tough. I mean, Steven Adams has been playing pretty well.
He's a physical player too.
And Gobert's game is more based around verticality and length.
Yeah.
He's not a solid and wide player. So I think they were always going to struggle. Like, Gobert was going to struggle against Steven Adams. And I think a lot of that series was going to come down to how Gobert would play against Adams, and then how Russell Westbrook, Carmelo Anthony, and Paul George would play. And I mean, Paul George went off in the first game. He went
he's been so hot and cold this year. Yet shooting 80% beyond the arc, just literally dropping them from every angle. And when you get a guy on a run like that, chances are you're not going to beat that team.
No,
even if that team doesn't have a Russell Westbrook.
Yep.
But because it does have a Russell Westbrook stats man, you're gonna struggle against them. But I mean, Ingles played well, 13 points. He's one of those guys.
3 or 5. It's not too bad.
3 or 5, but he's just one of those guys. He's not a catch and shoot. He needs setup. He needs a bit of time. He's a guy if you run a good screen for, and if he gets through his motion. But if he's pressed in any way, he struggles to get it over the top of people.
Shot up.
Yeah.
I don't think he can guard Paul George.
No.
And
he's got the length to guard Paul George. He just doesn't have the lateral speed.
He doesn't have the speed at all.
Yeah.
His footwork, his footwork's not too bad, but he's just overall speed. He's very top heavy. Like, he's a very stocky kind of guy. And I was watching that first game, and I was noticing that he was going into players' bodies using his shoulders as leverage. Whereas a lot of these smarter players know how to get away from players who do that, like using their shoulders and using their body to move you out of the way.
Yeah.
They lean a bit more on their shot, or they lean out of the way when they're cutting, or they lean when they're trying to score. And I don't think Joe Ingles really has the lateral quickness to guard a player like Paul George. And I mean, Exum came off the bench. He played 18 minutes. And he had a couple of good layups.
He's quick inside.
And he's driving to the basket's really dangerous. I think he's gonna, if he develops that over the next few years, I think
he's had such a poor run with injuries though.
Yeah,
such a poor first few years. But he's definitely got the talent.
I think so as well. As a guard, he almost has a undersized small forward's body. Not an actual conventional guard's body.
No, but he's like Durant. Well, Durant's tall, but he's so long. He's not that tall, is he? 6'4", but he's probably arm spans that of someone who's 6'7", 6'8".
His height's all legs.
Yeah,
so it allows him to finish a bit more. He had a few good drives, but I think
still a bit wary on the defense side of things.
Yeah, him coming off the bench. I mean, Rubio's their main point guard, and Rubio ideally is a good passer and will run sets. And I mean, if you're bringing Dante Exum off the bench to handle the ball, he's going to handle the ball more like a scorer than he is like a traditional point guard where, if he's running off screens from Gobert, he's going to the hoop. And
he's not going to offload it. He's going in for the drive.
Which is good. He's provided some scoring off the bench for Snyder. I mean, Snyder runs a good offense, like I was saying, like a long shot clock offense. And last season, it could get really slow and boring and clogged up. And they really like to limit transition. They're a really good team at limiting transition, which is another way they can kind of hurt OKC off the offensive boards. And
if you don't let Russell run the court,
you can't let Russell run out from under the basket because that's one of the biggest dangers when you're playing against. And they're one of the best teams to stop transition. But I mean, the way they've played this year is they've kind of kept the long shot clock offense, but at the same time they're moving the ball more because they've got Ingles playing as a guard and can handle the ball. And they're not just running a conventional point guard who handles the ball, brings the ball up, and runs all the action. They can give it to Ingles to run pick and roll with Gobert. They can, pass it around and give the ball to other players. Whereas last year they didn't really do that when they had Hayward and Joe Johnson mainly as the two ISO scorers. And I think this kind of suits Ingles a little bit better. Like
he's definitely more involved, and they're kind of playing very similar to Philly in many ways. Getting 4 or 5 passes off before they even take a shot, and that's not under pressure. They're just looking for the best option, and that's why Joe Ingles is hitting 40+% from outside because Ricky Rubio will get in there and someone will set a screen or they'll leave Ingles out for that open shot, and he nails them half the time. In a physical series or game series like the playoffs, he's not going to hit the same percentage because they're going to be up in his face more, and his shot is just not like that. But again, he's a good scoring option if you set the right screens for him, if you set the right plays. And again, this is where Donovan Mitchell's been fantastic. Is that they know that Ingles is good from beyond the arc, and that takes the double team away from Mitchell, and he's just scoring at will. So
he was good in that first game, Donovan Mitchell.
Any other season Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, I think so.
By a country mile.
Yeah, that is a little bit of a controversy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ben Simmons, but obviously we're biased. We like Ben Simmons here, so
but I mean,
Ben Simmons.
Mitchell almost has a complete game for a rookie, which is just unheard of. But
I think we can move on to game 2, which was yesterday.
And you called it. You'd say Thunder would implode at least twice in this series.
Yeah, I think they've got beating themselves in this series at least once. You can always count.
They didn't
on
quite beat themselves this time, but again, it was hoiking it up there and hoping for the best.
Yeah,
they thought that George might have gone on the same hot streak game 2, but was a bit colder and
and I think I was listening this morning and they were sort of saying that one thing they didn't do in game 1 was go at Carmelo Anthony a lot down the stretch of the games, and one thing they did in this game was go at Melo and basically say, okay, well, you can't have Carmelo on the floor now because we're just going to go at him the entire time and score at will. And I think OKC went on a 19-point run, and then I think the Jazz went on a 19-point run.
It was a big...
And Ingles had 3 points, but he was plus 21. And I was trying to work out why, he only took 6 shots. He had 1 of 4 from 3, but he was a plus 21. And I found out that he was off the court when OKC went on that run, and then he was on the court when the Jazz made that run. So, he timed that nicely. But I think they kind of went to Crowder straight away in that game. Like, Ingles came out of the game pretty early, and they put Crowder on Paul George, which I think Crowder's a better option to guard Paul George than Ingles. But, I mean, they used Exum really well in this game too, where they brought him off the bench. In the first quarter, they brought him in. They sort of late in the third as well.
He's a good relief for Rubio to take minutes away from Rubio. You'd want to put him on last 3 minutes of every quarter. When they've changed out Westbrook or George, and they're putting Raymond Felton in, who is the stubbiest backup point guard.
That's what they were doing down in the second quarter.
And you can guard Felton. Felton's not quick at all. And if someone's on a weaker defense, then you could take easy minutes and good setup from there. So it's smart coaching against a star-studded team that still underperforms. It's the Westbrook factor. He just who wants to play with him?
I don't know how. There's so many different ingredients in that Oklahoma team that you can't really, Paul George needs to play a certain way, Carmelo needs to play a certain way, and then Westbrook needs to play a certain way, but they're all polar opposites of each other. So if you throw them all in there, I don't know how you can.
Westbrook can't play with anyone. You need to build a team of rookies around Westbrook. develop a couple of good outside shooters. And Steve Adams is perfect for Westbrook. That's the only player in that team that I think centers around how Westbrook plays.
Yeah.
If he's on, he sets screens. If Westbrook wants assists, he hoiks them up and Steve Adams dunks. That's how Westbrook plays.
They have a good two-man game going.
They
play
do.
really good in a two-man game. And I think he hurt his wrist, Adams, in the first game. And then in the second game, he was having some foul trouble as well down this. I think he fouled out of that game, actually.
Okay.
And when Steven Adams is off the floor, Joe Ingles can run a lot better action because there's no one really to guard Gobert. And Derek Favors, I think he got a lot of boards, offensive boards. Favors can't really score from the elbow. Like he's only sort of good down under the rim. And it takes away an option for Ingles when he drives. If Adams is not on the court, then Ingles has more room to drive and pass the ball.
Yeah. And
I think there's the same with Rubio, where Rubio's mainly a pass first point guard. He's not a shoot. I mean, he's not someone who should be taking 16 shots a game. Which
sometimes he does though.
In that first game, he took 16 shots, and I couldn't believe it. I was watching that game, just going, why are you letting him shoot so many shots? Like, get him off the floor if he's going to shoot, more than 4 or 5 shots, and make sure most of them are layups.
Yeah, he's hot and cold. He's not consistent.
OKC want him to shoot. Yeah, that would be if you were OKC and you were looking at this Jazz team, you'd say, okay, we want Rubio taking 15 shots a game because he's a low percentage scorer. And we'll be making sure those are outside shots or, coming in off a screen, shooting from the elbow. So, I mean, I can see this series going the distance, 7 games.
So can I. Although taking one away from Oklahoma at home
that's big.
It's big. They could go 3-1 up here very easily. But again, you never count a Westbrook day out or a Paul George day out. I think Carmelo Anthony's day is gone. He's a good solid third and can be on and off. But if one of those two has a day, you're not going to stop them.
I think it's Paul George. If Paul George can have another nuclear game in Utah, I think they're going to maybe steal one, but I can't see...
Anger those Mormons.
The Mormons. But I can't see... Just the way they play is so not isolation basketball, but just strategies that isolate around one player. They may not just be ISO scoring, but it's almost as though OKC have to change the entire way they play just while this person's on the court, just for them to score.
Yeah.
As opposed to, it doesn't matter how we score as long as we score. Whereas when Westbrook's on the court, he doesn't seem to want to screen with Carmelo and then take shots, which I don't know why. It's kind of strange. Like when there's 3 of them on the court and they all screen for each other, obviously the offense is going to run better, but they don't seem to want to do that. And if they're not, that's just one less thing.
It's a team full of egos.
Yeah.
This is always the issue with a superstar team. Is it a superstar team or a team full of superstars? Yeah. And a team full of superstars very rarely wins.
Yeah. Really.
The only one that's Real Madrid. That's the team full of superstars that does any good. But, it's never been... It's always been a superstar team that's well coached. Everyone knows their place. They're happy to play with everyone. And this seems to be Philly. This is Philly.
They all seem to be a very well organized group of players, all playing for each other.
Yeah.
And
they're not playing for a paycheck or glory. They're playing for each other. And that's...
And I wonder how much of that is the fact that Simmons is a rookie and he's likable. Well, second-year rookie, and Embiid is likable as well. They all seem to really love Embiid as well, and they all feed when he does well.
Yeah.
I mean, we can go into the Philly series now.
Mate, it's the best series.
So I think they just played today. It was 1-1 after the first 2 games.
First game, they pretty much blew Miami away.
In the second half.
Second half, they just came out and outshot them. JJ Redick down 28. Saric is shooting 50% beyond the arc. Bellinelli's shooting 3 points from every which angle, off balance, on balance, wherever you mean. You can't, without Embiid, and they're just shooting at will from the 3-point line. Miami held back and they paid and they got hammered. And Simmons, they were putting 2 guys on him. All he was doing is running in, passing off, and someone to shoot a 3 and bang, 14 assists. And that's Miami's mistake. Good coach, didn't really know how to play against the newly formed Philly without Embiid.
I think Spoelstra's kind of stuck between we want to play this game really fast. We want to make Philly play really fast, really wild, and hopefully that suits physical basketball. It limits the way Philly can run their action if they play quick. Quick sets.
The problem is Simmons is 6'10". If they want to play quick, he's quick. If they want to play physical, you can't really bully a 6'10" point guard. Who are you going to bully with?
I think they did a little bit in that first half. Like that was their strategy to kind of make the game quick as well as physical. And then in that second half, when their offense struggled in a little bit, it only took that little bit for Philly to just turn it on and go. And suddenly, in transition, they're so dangerous.
Draghi
scoring
had
threes.
A shocking game.
Who was that?
Goran Draghi.
In that first game.
Yeah. I mean...
And he's a good point guard.
He's a really good... I mean, when you got D Wade as your backup, I mean, he's a shooting guard, but he's really been running point backup for Dragic, who's been here to foul trouble every quarter of the series. I
don't think there's a third ball handler really on that team.
There's not. And
that Miami team.
$25 million man Hassan Whiteside has been completely useless.
Yeah.
For them this series, because first 2 games you're playing against Ilyasova, who's just going to shoot outside if you're going to stand inside waiting for the rebound. And game 3 against Embiid, he just gets muscled down with no Hartlage. And Embiid just had his way with him. So, that's really... If your center's not performing and he's your money man, he's the one you're turning to for a lot of your inside paint points, you really just got to hoik it in from outside the arc and hope for the best. And game 1 didn't work for them. Game 2, it did work. They came out and played really physically. Like that game might have well been a game of rugby. Yeah. The amount of tackling and physicality.
And that's where in the first half of the first game, they played really physical and really quick. But in that second game, they've played really physical, but they slowed the game right down. And limited Ben Simmons in transition, and they were making sure that he couldn't just get in and dribble and pass the ball off. And especially, in the half court and in transition, they were making sure that he couldn't just toss the ball to someone who was open to shoot.
No, they were setting 3 screens even before they got to halfway. It was like a typical... international game where you're watching the Boomers play someone and Delhi annoying them on the baseline. It's ugly basketball. Good to watch, but it's ugly. It's not free flowing. There was 40.
But I mean, if you look at that Miami team and you look at the way
they're scrappy.
They have to be scrappy. They can't go toe to toe with Philadelphia and expect to play the game their way at the same time as limit Philadelphia, because if they're playing the game the way Miami wants to play, that just plays into the way Philly wants to play. Because Philly want to play fast, they want to get in transition, they want to make sure they're shooting a lot of their threes in transition, or they're able to drive across the lane and kick it out to an open shooter.
I mean, the 2 of the guys that catch and shoot guys who can shoot on the run. All you have to do is set a good screen, like Redick and Bellinelli. They can shoot on the run, and when they're dropping 30, I mean, they both had woeful games. I think Philly was 6 from 30 something
in the second game.
Game 2,
both teams shot really poorly,
but still really could have won that game. Last 4 minutes, got within 2, a couple of mistakes, and it, blew out fouls. They gave it to the end, but when you're shooting 14 second quarter and Miami shoots 35, they won 3 out of the 4 quarters in that game. Yet still managed to lose by 10 points.
Yeah, and I think that fourth quarter run that they went on, to get them back in the game, they didn't quite go far enough that run, and a little bit of their inexperience showed where.
Simmons got frustrated.
Yeah,
he was on 4 fouls. Ilyasova was on 5 fouls. I mean, it was a foul fest, and it was a free throw fest. But there was positives to come out of it,
where they slowed them down, like slowing them down and making sure JJ was always on someone with length, so he couldn't just shoot off.
They completely shut him and Bellinelli out second game, and that's when Ilyasova had a better game. And really, Simmons muscled his way and had a bit of a Giannis game where he said, well, if I can't pass to anyone, I'm just going to muscle my way inside and lay up or shoot over the top. And he didn't. That's why he scored a lot of points comparatively to what his season average is second game. I mean, he still had a good game. He's still playing really well.
Still almost unstoppable from a physical point.
From a physical point, there's no guard that can guard him. They've either put a center on him, and even then he's too quick for a center. So they put someone who's tall, and it's a 50-50 battle. When you're playing a physical game like Miami do, chances are you're just going to get caught out. And he's a 56% free throw shooter. Regular season.
I think Miami have done a really good job to foul him and not just let him get layups. And
of course, but he's shooting. I think he's shooting 77% this series.
Which, going on the scouting report, you'd see, make sure you foul this guy and don't let him get easy buckets because he can't shoot. So he's shot well from the line, which is another...
If you're shooting 77% from the line and he's shooting 50% from the field, you probably don't want to foul him at this point.
And Dwayne Wade just went absolutely mental.
Just ridiculous fadeaway shots. It was 10 from 10 at one stage.
Yeah.
And it ended up being 11 from 16. But again, that's one of those Carmelo Anthony rare nights. Dwayne's 35.
Yeah.
You can't play like that every night.
No, you can't take that to the bank every night.
No, not anymore. But he played well. So Dragic played well. They had... You take Wade out of the equation, or Wade has a 50% shooting night, the game's even.
Yeah.
So... A lot of positives for Philadelphia is that Ben Simmons still had his way with Miami physically, and going into Game 3 it was going to be physical too, and it was a pretty exciting game to watch.
Yeah, that was a good game this morning.
First half, it was tit for tat. Miami was up 2 at the break, and
it felt like little runs, if you know what I mean.
It was 4 points here, 5 points here.
I mean, Ellington shot really well in the first half. I think he'd made 4 from 4, and it was again sort of halfway between Miami trying to make the game fast and physical and trying to make the game slow and physical. It was almost right in the middle where both teams had just this perfect sweet spot of transition shooting, being able to run Simmons through pick and roll and for him to get baskets, and for him to dish off. And I mean, Šarić shot really well down the stretch of that game.
Šarić he's 6'8", but jumps 5'1". But again, for a big guy shooting outside, they don't guard him. They don't guard him like he's an outside shooter. They guard him like he can't dribble. His driving's too slow. Yep. He is good when he gets to the rim when he gets there, but they don't. You're going to put pressure on Bellinelli and Redick. Šarić is a 38 to 40%.
He's a good option on the outside.
He trained 3 threes within about 4 minutes, and that was the game. Yeah, that was essentially the turning point of the game.
And clutch shots too. Not, I mean, you look at some players. I mean, Covington has not shot well through the series at all.
He hasn't shot well since he got his contract. Really.
He went on a bit of a tear after he got that contract. A little bit of a tear, but coming down through the end of the season.
He's been disappointing defensively in this series and turning the ball over way too much. I mean, that 15 streak, he was the best defensive player in the league. Blocking shots, just hustling dudes, steals on the regular, but he's been somewhat disappointing postseason. Someone who's been really good this game is TJ McConnell. Markel Fultz coming off the bench. Markel Fultz probably not right for this physicality. I mean, they're probably worried about his shoulder as well in this kind of physical nature. But TJ's like a whippet. He gets in there, he gets through players, and they don't guard him like they're guarding a shooter because they expect him. He's not going to shoot because I'm 6'10" and you're 5'11", 6 foot. So he just runs around them and lays them up. He got a couple of and ones, and that was the game taken away. It was a positive when Simmons was off the floor. And that's, as a team like Miami, you got to take advantage of Simmons being off the floor.
Yeah. And
if you're not taking advantage of Simmons being off the floor, you're going to lose the game. Yeah. That's just, it's in a nutshell. And they ran away with it in the end. But again, Miami's not a 130-point team.
Nah. And if they're gonna let Philly score 130 points, then they're gonna lose.
Yeah.
I mean, Miami. Wayne Ellington in that first half, he took 4 3-pointers. In that first game, in the corner, anytime Dragic in a transition, he'd get in the corner and toss it to Ellington, and Ellington to score. Sorry, in the second game. I think it was Justice Winslow.
Oh, he had a good game.
Yeah,
again,
4 from 6 from 3, and most of that was in the first half. And then he didn't take any other shot. I think he took some long twos.
They went cold. They went cold quarter fourth. But I mean, most of these guys had to come out with foul troubles halfway through every quarter, and that's what happens when you play a very physical nature against a team that is. I mean, Philly's not a skinny, lanky team. They're a team full of big, powerful guys. Like Saric is big, Bellinelli's big, Simmons is massive, Embiid's huge. And let's not discount Embiid game 3. He just came back really with a month off and I'll just shoot over the top of you. Yeah. I'm not a 3-point taker, but I'll take 3. Fouling him, shooting at 65-70% from the line.
He trying to shoot with that mask. I mean, I couldn't imagine trying to play with that mask. That was crazy. You
broke about 3 on the court.
Yeah, I think somebody was stepping on one as well.
Yeah, no, it fell on and someone stepped on it. Yeah. But he wanted to take it off, and Brett Brown was just yelling at him, going, "No, don't, put it back on."
I don't think the NBA would let him play without them.
No, and he can't. But again, it just shows you he hated that. He wasn't having a good first quarter. 1-3 warmed him up, and from that, it's he had a good defensive game. He's one of the only big blokes that's 7'2" that'll run back to defend the rim when he's fallen over.
He's sneaky quick. He's not quick, but he's sneaky.
He'll get up there.
Yeah, and chasing down the ball, getting into areas where it can affect shots. You watch him and you think, wow, he's slow, but at the same time, he seems to alter a lot of shots, block a lot of shots.
Yeah.
And you just think to yourself, how does someone with limbs like that?
He's just so tall. And, for every one of his stride, it's someone else's 2 strides. So a lot less cadence is required to get you to the same place. So he just looks lanky, but it's just part and parcel of being 7'2". But, I mean, for a big guy, he's shooting prowess and playing 30 minutes. I don't see how Miami come back from today.
Well, I don't know who they can get to guard him. I mean, Whiteside struggled.
Whiteside had 4 fouls by halfway through the third quarter. And
then again, I don't think Whiteside is a seasoned post defender who relies on matching up his opponent and defending him. He likes the highlight block. He likes to come in off the weak side and block shots.
Yeah.
But when Embiid plays, Embiid pretty much always goes through that same triple threat where he'll bring the ball down, he'll put the ball up, and then he'll fake a shot, and then he'll shoot.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the patience to defend that properly, then he'll shoot over you, or he'll just go straight through and score. Yeah. And I don't think Whiteside really has the patience to defend.
Whiteside doesn't have the Euro step either. That's one thing Embiid and Simmons both have in their arsenal. I don't know if Brett Brown's been training that, but even Saric has come out and had that. And if you're a center and you're really just looking for offensive rebounds or the odd alley-oop, then you're probably not going to match the offensive capabilities of Embiid. And if you're not defending them well, what are you doing? And it was funny. Justice Winslow blocked one of Embiid's shots, and Embiid ran straight back down the court and blocked his shot.
Yeah, I saw that. Was great. Yeah, that was, and it was Winslow's block was a great block.
Yeah, it was a great block,
fantastic block. I remember watching it going, whoa, that's an insane block. And then the next sequence going, whoa, that's an insane block as well. And
it was definitely my pick of game of the round.
Yeah, they finished up guarding Embiid with Olynyk. And
he did all right. I mean,
I thought he did really well. I mean,
he's got volume. He's a big,
yeah.
There's big Mort dudes from up north.
Yeah, and yeah, he's Canadian, isn't he?
I'd imagine. Olynyk, he's probably from Norwegian or somewhere like that.
Yeah, probably across the Bering Land Bridge. But yeah, Bill
he
was saying
over.
When he was at Boston, he was like someone in a stoner rock band. When he had a crazy night in one of the, I think last year's playoffs, he had some crazy night where he won a game for him before the Cleveland series. I can't remember who they played before Cleveland, whether it was Miami or Toronto. But I mean, he defended him with his body, and he wasn't afraid to get right in his face. I mean, that's how you're gonna have to guard him, or you're gonna have to either hope you can put a body on him and stop him from scoring. But then if you don't stop him from scoring, you got to hope that he doesn't just toss the ball out to these other shooters that are just nailing everything.
Well, this is the other thing as well, is that you really need two guys on Embiid when he's backing down. And you can't because...
No, you need to double. And that was when you and I watched that Golden State game, that was one of the main things that Golden State are really good at, single coverage. And at the same time, defending pass outs and doubling really late. And that's one thing that Embiid really struggled with in that game was Draymond guarding him, keeping his body outside the paint. But at the same time, instead of coming straight over to double and making sure he got rid of the ball early and giving him the option to just toss the ball out to somebody who was wide open after the double team, they'd wait until he got into the triple threat move, like he jabbed once, and then someone would come over, and he really struggled. So
he got his pocket pinched a fair bit from in that game, if I can remember correctly.
So I wonder if they start Olynyk Miami.
I think they probably do.
They just don't have not many of those East teams just have a center that can guard Embiid.
No.
Which is going to be interesting going into the next round. I mean, if they make it through, which we hope they make it through.
Who they play? Toronto, I think, don't they?
I think, they're on Toronto's side. What are they? Third, 1-3.
That's a good series.
That'll be a very good series because Toronto have two tough bigs in Ibaka and Valanciunas. So I wonder if
but then do they go to Ilyasova? I mean, the thing is, you could.
I mean, didn't Amir Johnson start that second game?
Yeah, because he was out and was pretty useless because, I mean, for the 2 minutes he was on, Whiteside had pretty much backed him down straight away. He's not got the...
He's not a skilled big man. He doesn't have great hands.
No, and he's not... He was a weird buy for Philly. I think he was a buy that they were looking at having a traditional center if Embiid went down, and they didn't have Ilyasova at the time. And outside of that, they've got Rashawn Holmes, who is offensively very effective, but defensively not as effective. So, I mean, Amir Johnson's a good defensive player. The problem is he doesn't have both qualities, and Holmes doesn't have both qualities. So his really do miss him.
Hands are not great too. I mean, he's a good offensive rebounder, and he's a good rebounder in general, but you know, those dribble handoffs, those Simmons drive and close to the basket handoffs, he doesn't have the greatest hands.
No.
And I mean, if they go through into that next round, Toronto maybe have the personnel to guard Embiid.
But then it opens up the floor to 3-point shooting. This is
pretty much.
It'll be pretty much Bellinelli, Redick, and Ilyasova versus Lowry or
Saric,
and I mean, you've got four guys that can shoot
and then Covington,
outside.
And then
if Covington, it's they just picked up two really good guys. I mean, these guys are getting 35 plus points on the bench. Straight away.
Ilyasova and Bellinelli.
Yeah,
Bellinelli especially was a great pickup.
Yeah,
a good veteran too.
Yeah,
because they had Devin Booker or Trevor Booker or Devin.
They had Trevor Booker, but he was, again, kind of not really part of the process. He didn't really fit in with the playing style because they were playing him at centre. He's not really a centre.
Nah, it's more power forward.
He's a power forward, and I mean Saric is a much better option in that respect. And so they play Saric. And then when you don't have Saric, you've got Ilyasova. And when you don't have Ilyasova, you've got Bellinelli. And you can play your Redick and your Covington outside. And you pay your Simmons all the time. But yeah, look, it's anyone. I don't think any team wants to play Philly. I think every team would happily play any other team except Philly.
Yeah. It's a tough matchup for most teams.
Well, I mean I think Toronto went 3-1 in the series.
Yep.
But very early on, they played their games very early on in the league, and the last game Philly won quite easily on the back of Embiid and Simmons.
Yep.
And they've got to get through Miami, which are probably their toughest opponents to come up against round one. Just purely the physical nature of.
Yeah, I think Miami have the least to lose.
Yeah.
In just trying to goon them off the court, basically, by getting right in there and gooning them, basically. So you'd hope. I don't think Spoelstra's not that kind of coach. I mean, he doesn't really have the roster to compete, but at the same time, he's not really that kind of coach. I mean, if you look at Indiana, the way Indiana play, they're very handsy and very body type of team. So I wonder. I think they're on the opposite side of the draw, though, aren't they? I think they are. But and they have Evan Turner, and Evan Turner's not a great defender in the post.
I think it'll be, if it's likely anything, it'll be Philly Cavs Eastern Conference Final. If it goes that way. Oh man, that will be the series of the. Because it's either going to go two ways. Golden State gets Steph Curry back, and they just outshoot everyone, and they outshoot Philly in the final. They outshoot. The real good series, a good physical series, the tit for tat will be Embiid, Simmons, LeBron James.
Yeah, I think that'd be really interesting. I mean, they don't really have someone to guard Embiid, the Cavs.
No, not at all. But I mean, LeBron can just put on a LeBron night.
Yeah, LeBron is LeBron, and he can put up 40
first half. What did he put 29 up first half last week or first
against Indiana in the second game?
Second game.
But it's still LeBron's kind of still a depreciating game. I mean, he's kind of bound by how his role players play. Like he could put up 40, but if the other guys other game, he put up 44 in that game, but they only scored 106 points.
Yeah.
So
I mean, this is what happens when you trade out. I mean, personally, I wouldn't have traded D Wade back to Miami. I think I mean, get rid of Rose because Rose is old and was busted at the time. But D Wade, he knows how LeBron plays. He can play off each other. You get 25 minutes out of D Wade at a point or so forth. But they went for a young team and hasn't really paid off too well.
No, I don't know how it's really going to work through the rest of the playoffs because they're quite raw. And I mean, I don't see LeBron James just putting them on his back. Like, no. I think he's
someone's
the
going to
type
have to carry.
But I think he's the type of player that wants to get them involved. Like, he's the type of player that'll drive and dish for someone else to shoot the last shot in the game because they're a good outside shot. You know what I mean?
Choke.
Whereas he wouldn't go in and try and score over two people because he's LeBron James. I really don't think he's that type of player. So it'll be interesting. I wonder how, whoever comes out of that side of the draw, if Philly do make it all the way, I mean, they've got to get past the next round, which will be interesting, which will give us plenty more to talk about.
It will. Look, I would really like to see a Philly Jazz final. I think that would be interesting.
Jingling Joe Ingles?
Jingling Joe Ingles, the lanky bus driver from Wollongong. Well, that's what he looks like anyway.
Yeah, three guys from Australia in the finals. That'd be pretty amazing.
That would be good.
We had Delhi winning a ring 2 years ago. And then I think Patty Mills on that team? Did he win a ring?
He won a ring, yeah.
Yeah, so...
Last Tim Duncan.
It'd be amazing.
Yeah.
If another Aussie... If Ben Simmons...
Taking a team to a ring is different to winning one. What did Delhi play that series? 4 minutes?
Yeah, not many minutes.
No, not in the 7. But I mean, he still played a part in getting them there. But taking a team.
But yeah, for Ben Simmons, taking the team to the finals at least. I mean, taking the team to the playoffs.
Yeah.
is brilliant. Like, it's great. And the praise that he's getting in the US is genuine, wow, this guy's a really good player praise. Yeah. Not the kind of hype that you see.
He's not the Jared Hayne flash in the pan hype.
Yeah, he's getting actual hype.
Yeah.
And some people are starting to say, wow, this guy's playing like a Hall of Fame player. Like, he's going to be a great player. And I mean,
if he ever develops an outside shot, we have an MVP.
Yeah, definitely. That'll be very interesting.
Unless Westbrook just keeps stats hogging.
Yeah, that's also
stat
a very big possibility. And then if Harden's been playing outrageous.
Well, Harden's a scorer, and that's the other thing as well. Harden just shoots over everyone, but that last game of the regular season for Westbrook OKC, 20 rebounds because he needed.
Yeah, but that was always going to happen.
I'm just going to stand under this rim until someone gives me
the one that he got, or the one that he got that he needed. Carmelo kind of got out of the way, like in an exaggerated. Let him have it. just. But if that's how he wants to play, that's how he wants to play.
That's it. And this is why OKC will never win. But that's my prediction.
Well,
all right, guys. I think
you and a lot of people predict that. But
yeah. So, we could be wrong. They could have a magical come together. How many minutes are we at, Ben?
This says 2 hours and 5 minutes. I think it's 1 hour and 5 minutes.
Okay. I think we're going to wrap it up, and we'll be back wrapping up all the first round series of the playoffs, and it's looking like we're going to probably lose Mills and Thonmaker and Dellavedova this round, but hopefully Exum and Ingles and I definitely think Simmons will be there come round too.
Hopefully Ben Simmons can go through, because I think he's got the most chance to make it the furthest in the final.
Yeah, definitely.
And he has the game that everyone can appreciate as well and get on the back. So I think this will be a big thing for Australian basketball if he can somehow go all the way to the end.
Yeah, it brings us, and it's exciting. I mean, the Boomers are playing the Dream Team in 2 games
in Melbourne.
In Melbourne next year.
Is it next year, 2019?
2019. So it just shows you the calibre he's bringing down under, not only that, and also to the world. But I mean, come next year, maybe Bogut gets back into a bit of form.
Yep.
Aaron Baines in the centres. We've got number 2 team in the world on paper, for sure.
Australia's got a good team coming through. I mean, if we could sort of wrinkle out one more guard, maybe out of the draft.
Yeah, there's a couple, and that's what we're going to cover as well later on in the podcast series. And from now on, we're going to cover the draft and do a few player profiles of potential guys that have declared for the draft and what they're about, and hopefully they get picked up. But we'll be back next Friday.
Yeah, next Friday.
With another episode.
Yeah, with another wrap-up, episode 2.
Episode 2. All right, guys. Peace out.
Yep.
Enjoy the weekend.